Hi, I'm Irene Tansman, author of Abie and Arlene's Autism War. If you have a loved one enrolled in a rehabilitation facility in Massachusetts, or you are considering rehabilitation for your loved one with intellectual disability and or autism, or you are yourself enrolled in a rehabilitation facility, please consider joining the Rehabilitation Families in Massachusetts Facebook group. Today, I'd like to review this book, We Walk, by Amy Lutz. Amy Lutz is one of the leaders of the National Council on Severe Autism, and she wrote this book. Now, this book it's a very short book, and it's 24.95. I got it out of the library. It's about a 3-hour read. It's pretty expensive for a book that that you can probably read in about 3 hours. Now, this book, I have to say that I did enjoy it, but it's a group of like philosophical essays. You might find something like this, like in a blog post. It's not really a how-to book, and it's not really a depiction of severe autism. She does describe what it's like a little bit, but a lot of people are going to have trouble sort of relating to her experiences. This is a woman who had 5 children. She's traveled the world. She has 2 homes, a vacation home and a regular home. She has nannies. It's not really your common experience of severe autism. Now, I have to say, here, thinking a little pitch for my book, Abie and Arlene's Autism War. This one really does depict severe autism and dealing with the system and the whole 9 yards. So my husband said that, for a philosophical book, that usually the books are very short because the material is so dense and heavy and heady. Now, if you like this kind of a thing, a philosophical discussion, this one says this one says this is this, and bouncing around of ideas, then you'll like this book. But if that's not your kind of thing, erudite discussions of philosophy, if that's not your thing, you probably won't like it. I have to say that I did enjoy this. I learned some new things. I learned about the efforts to stop the American Psychiatric Association from lumping the diagnoses of the autism spectrum together. I was unfamiliar with some of the philosophical points and opinions that she pointed out in here. So in general, I did like the book, but I don't think the book is for everyone. And I'll have to say that I didn't agree with everything she said in her book. So what are the things that I have problems with in her book? First thing, she has a lot of faith in the experts. And I simply don't. Because, if you think back to the history, autism history, and you see that Bettelheim was at one time mainstream. That was the mainstream thought of the day, that the parents cause the autism and that you have to remove the child from the family. No. We're not going to put our whole faith into the experts. You want to be open to the experts, but you want to use your own judgment. She said that, she admitted in there she has a lot of faith in the experts, but, I wouldn't do that. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend listening with an open mind to the experts, but then use your own common sense. Now, some things in the book, I got the feeling that she was panicking. She brought her kid, a little kid, 3 years old, you know, a picky eater. Now, I have to say here that my son Isaac is a really good eater. I mean, a really good eater. Everything you put in front of him, he has a big smile in front of his face. He just loves whatever it is you give him. And he's happy, and he'll ask for more. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be salad. It could be ice cream. Of course, he's happier about the ice cream, but he'll eat it and he'll appreciate it, whatever it is. So I'm not really in her situation, but when I'm reading it, she's saying, "Oh well, the kid likes pretzels with peanut butter on it." I go like, "Oh wow, you like pretzels with peanut butter? Well, you could eat this thing, this plate of broccoli, and then you'll get that." Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it seems to me that with a lot of grit, she probably could have gotten him to eat just by sticking to it. I don't really know if that was necessary. Maybe it was. Maybe she did all those things, but she just didn't write it in a book. I don't know. I wouldn't want to judge her, but for people who are looking at this video, I want to say it that you don't want to, panic or jump to doing the most extreme thing. You want to try things that are less extreme first, and then if there's really no other choice, then you might go to the extreme. Now, another thing that she does, she mentions briefly in the book, ECT. Now, ECT has been proven to help with very severe depression that's not that isn't responding to medication. So it has its place, but I wouldn't want people to come to the conclusion, "Oh, my kid is having these behaviors. We got to do the ECT." Now, she only mentions the ECT briefly in the book. She wrote a whole other book about ECT. I might read it, I might not. I have to see. I'm certainly not going to, if it's available in the library, I will read it. Or if I get a free copy, I will read it. But I have to see about that. Now, before you rush to ECT, or anybody thinks that they should panic and rush to ECT because the kid is having these behaviors, I just want to briefly talk about some of the things that you might want to consider first before you go that, because ECT is a very, very invasive treatment, and you want to do the things that are less invasive first. So here are some of the things that I think you might want to consider before you jump to the conclusion that I got to take my kid to ECT. And again, it's possible that she did all of these things. Just because it isn't mentioned in the book doesn't mean that she didn't do it. And this was the last resort for her. I don't know, but I wouldn't want people to think that this is sort of like a cure of the day kind of a thing. So if your kid is displaying aggression or self-injurious behavior, here's some of the things that you might want to consider first. The first thing is abuse and neglect, and physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Now, she says in her book that she thinks it might be as much as 90% of people with severe autism who experience some kind of abuse in their life. And, I'll tell you, I don't know the exact percentage, but as the administrator of the Rehabilitation Families in Massachusetts Facebook group, a lot of people tell me their problems. And it seems to me that it is, I don't know if it's 90%, it is extremely common. And when my son was experiencing physical abuse in his rehabilitation facility, and this was confirmed. He came home during that weekend and he was really not himself. And I saw a lot of behaviors. And this is something that could cause the abuse and neglect can cause the person to have these behaviors. So you want to look very, very carefully, and nobody's exempt. Some parents think, oh well, if your kid is not in a group home and not in shared living, then it's not going to happen. You have to look everywhere. Look at your respite people. Look everywhere for that abuse, to see if that's going on. So that's one thing to look at, abuse and neglect. Another thing to look at is physical causes. Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics only recommends that pediatricians actually look for physical causes when somebody with this diagnosis displays these kinds of behaviors. So my son had behaviors because of his Crohn's disease. We didn't know that he must have had an active flare-up for a very long time before we figured it out. He had funny stools, and that's how we ended up figuring it out. And I don't think there could have been any medication or treatment or ECT or anything that would have helped him. He needed to be treated for Crohn's disease because that's why he was acting like that. So you want to look for physical causes. Look, the dentist, the tummy, the head. Make sure you explore whether or not that this behavior is coming from some kind of physical causes. Now, another thing that you want to consider is we know that, and the top behaviors agree with this, we know that not having the 8 essential skills puts a person at risk. And I'm going to place a link below about regarding the 8 essential skills if you're not familiar with it. If your loved one does not have the 8 essential skills, he or she is at high risk for maladaptive behaviors such as aggression and self-injury. And I would almost place a bet that her son probably does not have his 8 essential skills. And the 8 essential skills includes being able to communicate that you want at least 10 things, waiting appropriately without behaviors, and accepting no. And if you don't have those things, then you're at high risk for those behaviors. And you want to work on those things first before you do any other thing. Now, another thing to consider, and she wrote about this in her book, about medication, because medication comes with a lot of controversy. But I happen to agree with her. If you need it, you need it. The medication, you want to look at all the other things first because if there's abuse and neglect, you want to actually see the aggression and self-injury so that you can fix that problem. If there's a physical cause, you want to see it so that you can fix that problem. And if your kid if your kid can't accept no for an answer gracefully, then your kid is really at high risk for developing behaviors, and you've got to work on that. First, work on getting him to wait, delay gratification, longer and longer, and then accept no. That's what we're doing with Isaac now. We're trying to get him to accept no. If you don't get what you want, the sky's not going to fall down. It's still going to be good. And you have to learn how to do that. You can't have behaviors. He has some real disgusting behaviors when we want him to do something he doesn't want to do. We don't want that. And he's got to work on that, and he's got to be able to accept no gracefully. So medication. Medication, you want to consider medication when you've already considered those other three things: abuse and neglect, physical causes, and having the essential 8 skills. You'll consider medication. Also consider medication if there is a danger in the family. You're worried about your other kids. You're worried about the person's going to hurt you. The person's going to hurt a teacher. That I would consider emergency. You're going to think about a medication, and we have some medication that is specifically to reduce agitation in autism. And most likely, because not all of my viewers have kids with autism, it will most likely work with other disabilities as well. So that's a little digression. I don't want people to read this book. This book is for entertainment. This book is not a how-to, and not to tell you what severe autism is about. This is more of a philosophical book, and if you read it as such, you'll enjoy it. You want to have your own plan in terms of what you're going to do with self-injurious behavior, how we're listening to the experts. These are just ideas. I don't think that it's something that you want to actually follow. So again, that's We Walk. It's available in the library. I recommend you buy it, that you take it out of the library. It's a very expensive book to buy. And if you want a book about depiction of severe autism, read my book, Amy and Arlene's Autism War. Very inexpensive to download to your Kindle, and it's $10. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.